Reconnect and heal today. Welcome to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Love Never Dies Radio and Dr. Turndorf Turn on the Love television on Binge Networks TV. Listen, you guys, I need my guest today more than I've ever needed to talk to anyone because I'm having the technological day from hell. My Mac computer just decided to do a system restart, so I have no access to my computer. Hopefully it'll come back between one of these segments and now, and I have no access to my notes. And so I need Steve, my guest's harp music, big time. So I want to introduce you to my wonderful guest, Steve Reese. Steve Reese, he's been so sweet. He heard me hit a high C. I said to him, I need your harp music and IV Valium. I need everything. So
well,
what
at
are we
least it was
talking
a C.
about?
That was 528.
Exactly. We're talking about the 528 hertz frequency, how it's been found to facilitate beautiful effects in our lives. And Steve Reese learned how to tune his harp so that it plays music in the 528 hertz dominance. And he began to record music in that frequency. And he was amazed to find the testimonials he began receiving from people listening to his music. Yeah. And at first he observed these positive effects on his patients. He was working with them in the dialysis unit, and that led him to begin to record the music and make it available to a broader audience through the internet. He also writes a column in the mastersofhealthmag.com, and he has a website where he shares his music, The Calming Store. Steve, that's the best I can do with your bio from memory.
Well, that's fine.
so welcome, Steve Reese, and we have music that we're also going to be able to share with my viewers and listeners. But you know, one of the things that I thought was really fascinating was how you talked about the fact that you started to do research, you said, and that in your research, you began noticing that a specific scripture, number 1 Samuel, described David playing the harp, right, and the music causing a troubling spirit to depart King Saul. Can you tell us a little bit about your research?
Well, first of all, going back to the dialysis clinic, I have the patients on for about 3 hours to clean their blood because they're kidney failure. And I had made a small harp, little 26 string. And I thought, hey, you know what? They're on the thing for 3 hours. Why don't I take it in? And I started getting brave enough to let people hear me play. And so I started doing that, and I started observing some really amazing physiological effects. I would see blood pressures come down. I would see oxygen saturations come up. I would see patients that couldn't sleep start to sleep, and patients that the pain medicine wasn't working, it started working, and other things, and heart rates would slow. And so I'm thinking, you know, there's got to be something going on here, because I'm reading the text that you just referred to, that seemed to be describing an effect as well. So actually in 2006, I went over to Israel for a Feast of Tabernacle time. And I decided while I was there, I would talk with rabbis, I would talk with archaeologists, you know, has anybody found any sheet music of David in any of the digs? Which is, you know, obviously not, but there was some really interesting ideas. And that got me on a search into the internet. One of the first things I came across was Dr. Horowitz, Dr. Leonard Horowitz. He and Joseph Puleo had co-written a book, and Biblical Codes for the Biological Apocalypse, quite a name. You can still get it on Amazon.
The book is Healing Codes.
I'm sorry, Healing Codes.
Right.
healing
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 code
code.
for the
Right.
biological apocalypse. Right.
I always mess up on the title.
That's all
Too
right.
many words to remember. Anyway, Joseph Puleo had he had a revelation, a divine revelation, he called it, and I believe it was because of what was uncovered was a pattern that was found in the book of Numbers, chapter 7, and it had identified the frequencies, which are today called the solfeggio frequencies, but as you look at the scriptures there, they've been there a long time. They've just were embedded into the words, and the patterns that came out made the notes, because frequencies are notes. And so then Joseph further received information about how to apply which note to which Hebrew letter, and that just became I just became consumed with, okay, how do we make that real into music? And it was interesting. I had a conversation with Leonard one day, and he said, we knew where the notes were, but you know what to do with them. so it's been a real interesting journey. Yeah.
Now let me ask you, because I when I was freaking out because I couldn't get my computer to stop its system update, and by the way, the computer is back online, so in the next
All right.
segment, hopefully I'll be able to jump over to my computer because I had so many questions I wanted to ask you. But one of the things I wanted to ask was the solfeggio frequency, because I hit a high C while I was freaking out
Right.
before we went on air, and the
528.
solfeggio is what I learned, when I was training in the bel canto opera. So
Right.
why did they call it the solfeggio frequency?
Well, solfeggio is my understanding is a Latin term meaning it's like a named frequency. So it's basically the so like do re mi do di re, sound of music made popular by having a name for each note. And my understanding is that's actually what solfeggio means, is a series of named notes.
Okay.
I prefer to call them the tabernacle frequency, just because I believe the ancient scripture actually is where we find those frequencies embedded, and it's right after the tabernacle of Moses was set up in the wilderness. And I don't know if you've read some on my website, but I have a whole document that I prepared on there that I call tabernacle frequencies, which are what people call the solfeggio. But I found that there's actually a link between each of the tabernacle pieces of furniture that were in that mosaic tabernacle in the wilderness and each of the frequencies, because I went ahead and did the chord progressions, which I started doing with the Psalms. My wife suggested one morning that we look at each of the pieces of furniture, because there are 6 frequencies and there's 6 pieces of furniture. And she said, do you think there's a relationship? And I said, well, let me see. And so I took the descriptions, like in Exodus 27 describes the brazen altar. And sure enough, there were heavy dominance of that frequency in those chord progressions. And I went to each one and found very similar patterns in each one that linked them to each one of the frequencies. And the interesting thing is that the first piece of thing that you come to in that pattern there is the lowest frequency, and each step you move in goes to the next highest frequency until you get to the Ark of the Covenant, which was where the presence of God was, and that's the highest frequency. So it's like this whole system was set up to. And it's interesting because God told Moses when he started to make that, let them make me a sanctuary so that I may dwell among them. So it's like he's leading people into his presence through these frequencies. So it's just a really interesting idea.
So there's so much that I wanted to speak to you about. It's like I'm overwhelmed I was doing some research, and I wanted to ask you if this frequency, the 528 hertz, is the same as the Solomon frequency. You're familiar with the Solomon?
Yeah, and that's my understanding. And so, if oh, what's that?
Okay, wait a sec. I'm going to close down my phone.
Oops.
Hello. I think I'll be okay now.
Okay.
It's been the craziest day yet.
Well, we can roll.
I'm with you now.
There you are.
I mean, thank you for tolerating all that technical stuff. I'm with you. I get to see you. Everybody, hello again.
Hello.
Okay. So about the Solomon frequency.
Right. And it's interesting, when I first started, I've actually worked in 3 different systems now. I think Horowitz Polio system is the best. But it's interesting, each of the systems, you take the Yod He Vav He, or the actual name of God that's in the scripture, and you work that into a chord, that ends up being the 528 frequency.
Can you explain that for people who don't understand? How does the YHVH end up being 528 frequency?
If you take the note that goes to each of those letters, which first of all you get the notes in Numbers chapter 7, and then you take those notes over to Psalm 119, which is an acrostic. So you take the number that's associated with the note from Numbers and put it with the number that is associated with the letter in Psalm 119, then you have a direct link to a note to a letter, a Hebrew letter. So when you go to the original scripture that's written in Hebrew, then you have your notes to your letters. And what I discovered was, instead of playing those notes separately like a melody line, you look at all of the notes that are in the Hebrew word, and when you play more than one note at the same time, you have a chord. And so when you go word to word to word, you have chord progression. And that's the music that I do, comes out of those chord progressions. So when you take all of the notes for the Yod He Vav He, that gives you the C chord, which is the 528 dominant.
And is the Solomon frequency 528 hertz dominant as well?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, so your work is in the Sol, and you know, I started doing the research on the Solomon frequency, and it seemed like you were playing in the Solomon frequency. And you know, people sometimes think, oh, this is hokey, but the reality is there's no cell of the body that isn't sensitive to sound vibrations, and the right frequencies change how our cells and our organs function.
Exactly. And if you think about the fact, it's crazy, but you know, Matsuro Emoto did all of the study on the crystal formation of the water. And there's some people that poo-poo that as well, because he didn't have double-blind studies and such. But at the same time, there's some pretty interesting observations there, I think. And
well, let me tell you something, Steve, because I'm a doctor and I love to have all the research, the empirical data. I actually did some research for our show just so that people would know there's a lot of research. MIT Cornell said the 40 hertz frequency stops plaques in your arteries, and that Solomon frequency that's mentioned in the Bible changes your gamma waves. It washes your neurons. It's like a pressure wash for your brain. It's linked to the reversal of Alzheimer's. It induces deep sleep, dissipates pain, produces natural opiates.
Absolutely, yeah.
Increase in opiates. It can drop your blood pressure, lowers inflammation, brings less glucose into the bloodstream. You can lose up to 50 pounds with no change in your diet or your exercise, stopping age-related decline. All this is proven.
Exactly, yeah.
Right?
Even a great study came out of El Paso hospital on the strengthening of the heart muscle with the music. 25% increase in ability to perform on a treadmill, just with listening to music versus not listening. And that was double-blind. That was double-blinded.
I want to ask you about this also, because we see that this frequency, the 528 hertz or the Solomon frequency, really helps the brain. And I saw a study that said that tinnitus is reduced by 50% with this frequency. And I think I read somewhere
that even though we hear the tinnitus ringing in the ear, it's really coming from the brain.
That's it's kind of crazy because I have a slight tinnitus myself, and so I just try to do a lot of music. So,
Right?
but I think it's from my early days of running a chainsaw.
Yes. Well, when I was in college, I bent over to pick something up and I hit my head on the wall and I had tinnitus from that point. And I always thought it's something with the brain. And if, we reduce tinnitus by 50% using this frequency, it's because it's really working on the brain, right?
Yeah.
Now, we have some music, don't we, that you recorded with this frequency. Bob, you have some cued for us, don't you?
I do not.
You don't? Oh, what a bummer. Steve, do you have a way of sharing some music with us? Because in a few minutes, we're going to be going into a break. But if you want to share your screen, then we would be able to play your music on air.
If I went to YouTube, could I do that, or?
Well, I'm just trying to think. I have an idea. Could you email me some soundtracks and then I will share them with the engineer during our first break? Is that possible?
Well, if you go to my YouTube, I've got tons of stuff up there. And I've got the introduction right at the front. I'm playing a little harp in Christchurch in Israel. It's a beautiful song. I've gotten probably the most hits on it than anything.
I know, because you said you had millions and millions of listens. Bob, is there a way you think that during the break we could grab something from YouTube and play it in our second segment?
Do you have my YouTube address?
Yeah, probably easier for me with an MP3, but I will investigate the YouTube.
Okay, or I can send you Dropbox links too. But
Oh, that might be difficult for Bob because I'm making him pat his head and rub his stomach today. And it's really, really bad, my tech stuff. I mean, I'm sure we're going to have to use this frequency to help him overcome the stress and me. So
I could grab them from Dropbox. That would work.
Dropbox?
Yeah.
All right. So Bob, does he need to have your email in order to Dropbox?
If you or he text me his email, I will text him mine during the break.
Can we do it through this chat window?
There's Jiggery Pokery. The other way is easier.
So I turned my phone off. So everybody, you're seeing the behind the scenes working of this is
So he's texting me.
So is he reaching out to you and he's giving you the info for where you can Dropbox? Because I would love everybody to hear the music. Everybody needs this frequency now. I need it. Everyone needs to hear it and feel the calming effect. Did you get it? You get it to him?
On it.
Yay.
So are you texting to my email? I mean, are you sending an email? Yeah.
I will text to your Zoom chat.
Okay.
And then okay. So now I'm getting you stressed out, Steve.
Okay, I pulled up my Zoom chat box, so that should help.
You thought you were feeling good till you got on this show. You're like, now the music works for you as well, right? To really calm you down?
Oh, it does. Absolutely.
All right, well, then when we come back, I mean, one of the things I want to talk about in the second segment is after we listen to some of your frequency is this interesting silver cord that Solomon talks about in the Bible that maintains all the functions of the body. You know what I'm talking about. It's like
absolutely.
A silver guitar string. I want to talk about that in the vagus nerve. So now Bob has what he needs in order to grab some of the music, right?
I just typed the YouTube link onto the chat box. So,
okay, so Bob has.
Excellent.
He's just doing wonders. He's juggling so many balls here.
Well, you see my life.
But, I'm not kidding. this has been very stressful, and they say the more divine it is, the more you're obstructed. I didn't even tell you when my computer came back on, I tried to open our show document and my Word wouldn't open. It just kept crashing. So we are being obstructed, but I think we've turned the corner now. Let's take a brief break. I'll be back with you in a moment on Love Never Dies Radio on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, and Dr. Turndorf, Turn on the Love on Binge Networks TV.
All right.
Hi, it's Dr. Jamie Turndorf here, and I have a question for you. Are you or someone you love a veteran suffering from undiagnosed PTSD? According to statistics, between 100 and 200,000 vets suffer PTSD. But did you know that there's an arbitrary diagnostic loophole that denies the PTSD diagnosis to vets who suffer a coexisting mental health disorder? Meanwhile, according to the British Psychiatric Journal, it is rare for vets to suffer PTSD without a coexisting mental health disorder. This means that millions of vets with PTSD don't even know they have it and aren't getting treatment for it. Read my new column, Winning the War on PTSD, in mastersofhealthmag.com and discover a cutting-edge, research-backed new solution to PTSD that you've never heard about. The exciting news is this solution is free for vets with PTSD. Go to mastersofhealthmag.com, take my free PTSD quiz right away, and start your healing journey today. Wishing you all the love in this world and beyond, I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf.
Love Never Dies is now on the Dream Vision 7 radio network every Wednesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Jamie Turndorf, also known as Dr. Love, is the #1 international best-selling author of Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. If you're grieving the loss of a loved one, tune in and find out how to reconnect and heal any unfinished business using Dr. Turndorf's groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique. Visit AskDrLove.com to find out more.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
You're listening to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. If you yearn to get along better with your life partner or spouse, friends, family members, and even coworkers, Dr. Turndorf's book, Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, Dr. Love's 10 Simple Steps to Cooling Conflict and Rekindling Your Relationship, shows you how to turn conflict into connection for a lifetime of lasting love. Find out more about Kiss Your Fights Goodbye at AskDrLove.com. This is Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. This show is for you, the listener. Once again, here's Dr. Turndorf.
Hi, it's Dr. Jamie Turndorf here, and I have a question for you. Are you or someone you love a veteran suffering from undiagnosed PTSD? According to statistics, between 100 and 200,000 vets suffer PTSD. But did you know that there's an arbitrary diagnostic loophole that denies the PTSD diagnosis to vets who suffer a coexisting mental health disorder? Meanwhile, according to the British Psychiatric Journal, it is rare for vets to suffer PTSD without a coexisting mental health disorder. This means that millions of vets with PTSD don't even know they have it and aren't getting treatment for it. Read my new column, Winning the War on PTSD, in mastersofhealthmag.com and discover a cutting-edge, research-backed new solution to PTSD that you've never heard about. The exciting news is this solution is free for vets with PTSD. Go to mastersofhealthmag.com, take my free PTSD quiz right away, and start your healing journey today. Wishing you all the love in this world and beyond, I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf.
Love Never Dies is now on the Dream Vision 7 radio network every Wednesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Jamie Turndorf, also known as Dr. Love, is the #1 international best-selling author of Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. If you're grieving the loss of a loved one, tune in and find out how to reconnect and heal any unfinished business using Dr. Turndorf's groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique. Visit AskDrLove.com to find out more.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
You're listening to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. If you can't stop crying over the bodily loss of a loved one, Dr. Turndorf's #1 international bestseller, Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased, will show you how to toss out the tissues and transform your grief into joy using her groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique that enables you to reconnect and even heal unfinished business with those in spirit without the assistance of a medium, channeler, or psychic. Sign up for Dr. Love's free newsletter at AskDrLove.com and receive an exciting gift, a free excerpt of Love Never Dies. And now, back to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf.
Hello again and welcome back to Love Never Dies Radio on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network and Dr. Turndorf, Turn on the Love on Binge Networks TV. I'm talking with the very patient Steve Reese, who has turned his harp into a healing instrument. He tuned it to the 528 hertz frequency and noticed all kinds of healing in his dialysis patients. And then as he shared his music with a broader audience, he received hundreds of emails testifying to the amazing benefits of this music. And he has had millions of views and listens to his music. And he's just a wonderful guest. His website is calmingharp.com, where he shares his discoveries. He writes a magazine in Masters of Health Mag. He also offers the Calming Store to help share some of the technologies and frequencies behind the harp music. So we're back again, Steve, and I see that my wonderful engineer, Bob Sherwood, otherwise known as Pisser, that's my nickname for him, he is going to get your music, and because we all could use some de-stressing big time right now, all of us. I most especially from all my tech problems, and then I'm sure I got my energy frequency spilling onto you, Steve. Are you with me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you. So
I just sent a link over, so
I see that. So
okay.
that's the MP3 link. Thank you for doing that juggling.
Alrighty.
I'm on it here too.
Can you play it now?
Give me a couple.
Okay,
He'll probably have to load it.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. We'll let him load it. And so let's talk about what I asked to discuss before we went on a break, if that's all right. And that is that fascinating piece of information that I heard about that special string. You know, can you're familiar with what I'm talking about, right?
You're talking about the vagus nerve.
Yeah, well, from what I saw, Solomon in the Bible talks about a silver cord that maintains all the functions of the body, like a guitar string. We're talking about
Right.
the vagus nerve. It impacts, digestion, mood, and when it comes back to life through this frequency, you just you're like awakened. I read that seniors with an active vagus nerve live twice as long as seniors who don't. And the Solomon frequency, that 528 hertz frequency, stimulates the nerve without cutting it, right?
Yeah, yeah. The interesting thing about the vagus nerve, you being a doctor, I'm sure know, but it is the longest nerve. There are so many of our systems that are attached to it. There are so many ways that we can help ourselves by activating the vagus nerve. Interesting little side story. I have, once in a while, I end up with a little atrial PAT, paroxysmal atrial tachycardia.
Atrial fibrillation, or AFib?
Not fibrillation, tachycardia.
Okay,
A little bit different. And by taking huge deep breaths and bringing my diaphragm in to actually stimulate the vagus nerve, within a couple of minutes, I'm usually out of it, back to normal rhythm. And that was a technique I learned from a fellow, Stig, who I think he's in Norway or somewhere. He does world records of underwater, holding his breath underwater. And he taught that technique, and I thought, wow, I need to learn that. And it has just put me in such a good place so many times. But just to stick with the 528, it's even used in genetic research, and we understand more and more that the 528 frequency actually affects DNA assembly in our. So you could say that our bodies at a DNA level are actually tuned for 528 frequency. And if we supply 528 frequency to our DNA, it actually is able to function better. I had one article that I put on my website. I've been challenged on it a couple times, but I still think there's something to it. In that genetic researchers, when they're doing the DNA restructuring, they use 528 frequency to help do that, to make it process better. And when you think of that, and then you think of Emoto's work with the water crystals, the restructuring the water with the 528 frequency, and we're 80% water or 75% water, whichever, how much, depends how hydrated we are.
Listen, if we're premenstrual, we're 100% water.
Yeah, there we go. But anyway, all of those effects are if those things are observed in the inanimate structures, why not wouldn't they be observed in us? That's my big question. And
well, because what you're saying is that the 528 frequency can bend water molecules. So why can't you bend them inside our body?
Absolutely, that's my whole point. Yeah,
that's the whole point. So if you think about it, if you can affect DNA, then you could turn off unhealthy DNA expression, right?
Right. Interesting story. Before I found out about 528, I used to tune my harp a little bit sharp just because I thought it sounded better. And 528 is a little bit sharper than 523. If we tune to the 440 of the standard concert tuning, then when we get to, that's the A note, when we get to the C note, it's 523. But when we go to 444, which ends up being your Solomon frequency, or the standard by which we tune everything else, then that brings the 523 up to 528, which is just a little bit sharper. A lot of people don't have an acute enough hearing to be able to tell the difference between those, but they can sense it. My wife is not very musical. I mean, she loves to sing and everything, so I can't say that she's not musical, but she wouldn't be able to tune my harp. But she can tell whether I'm playing in 528 or not. I've blind tested her several times, and every time she's accurately right on. By how it feels, yeah.
Because does she feel it in her core?
Yeah.
Is that where she feels it?
Yeah. So, and I think that's the DNA effect, is what she's sensing. And so
you have your harp in the room?
I have my small harp, yeah.
So I'm thinking also, in addition to playing some of the music you recorded, I'm wondering if you could do a little demonstration with your small harp.
I'll go get it in the next break, and then I can do
that.
Yeah,
because we're really going with the flow here today, aren't we?
Oh.
Because, because I'm thinking maybe you could demonstrate. I mean, I don't know if it's something you could show us in terms of tuning it down and then tuning it up so that people could actually viscerally feel the difference. Is that a hard thing to tune?
That would be a little harder because I've got 26 strings I'd have to change.
Oh, okay. So that won't work.
I could do it on one string just to let you hear the difference, but
that'd be awesome, so we can hear the difference, right?
Another really cool thing to me is, and this may sound like it's a total different track, but it's actually, I think, related. When you go to, well, like Michio Kaku is one of the physicists that's big on string theory. And he believes that one of the ways he describes how string theory operates, he said, none of us have seen these particles that we're supposed to be finding with the Hadron Collider. We only know what the effects are. We say, if there is this particle, it'll produce this effect, but nobody's actually seen the particle. He believes that it's not particles at all, it's strings that are tuned. And one string can have different tunes. So all of these different particles that we're seeing are really different notes on the same string. And he said, when he goes further, he said, at the end of the day, what the universe is really made up of is a cosmic orchestra playing in harmony. And I just think that's so cool because it actually brings us right back to our DNA and our creator, who I believe there's this concept. When I studied biology, I studied from the creationist standpoint instead of the evolutionary. And there's this idea of conservation of design. So once God, creator, whatever term you want to use, sets up a system, he puts this beautiful design all through the system, and it all correlates together. So why wouldn't we? So I take one step further. I say, well, why not think of ourselves as a harp? If I set it over in a corner, I'm going to have to tune it every now and then because it drifts out of tune, and our bodies drift out of tune. And so I think this understanding of 528 that's coming, Horowitz and others have really been on the forefront of bringing our consciousness back to understanding this, is that we're out of tune. We can now learn to come back in tune. And as we come back in tune, we'll function better physically, spiritually, in every way, because we're coming back to our design. I don't think we're here by accident.
It's so interesting. You talk about being in tune, and that expression is something we use when we talk about being in tune with someone else.
Or we tell somebody, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. But I'm coming to the idea of, our whole purpose here on the earth plane, I believe, to perfect our ability to love ourselves and others. I call the earth plane our love lab. And
I was reading
tune, right? You want to be in tune with someone else. Now, how can I be in tune with you if I'm out of tune with myself? So this metaphor really works well. The more balanced and in tune you are, the more you can tune to someone else. And if the other person's vibration is in tune, it's much easier for us to have a synchronicity or a resonance with each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, even you take a scripture like Jesus at one point said, love others as you love yourself.
There you go.
Which really kind of is the same thing as what you just said, because you have to be loving yourself or in tune so that you can love others and be in tune with them. It's the same idea.
As we're talking, Steve, I'm thinking about how, my work in, improving relationships expanded to improving relationships with those in spirit. And part of that process is raising our vibration. So we vibrate higher so that we are able to get onto what I call the spirit channel, right? Like I can't talk to a loved one in spirit if he's broadcasting on channel 7 and I'm down on channel 2. Right. So part of my work is to raise your vibration. So you're vibrating at a frequency that you can send and receive energetic signals and communication to and from the spirit realm. So I'm thinking now that without realizing it, maybe the raising of the vibration is tuning us to the 528 hertz frequency.
Well, and I 100% agree, because then let's go back to the Yod He Vav He, God's name, or the creator, or however you want to say it, is 528. Well, why wouldn't he use that frequency, which is embedded in his name, to have everything tuned to? I mean, it just makes sense.
Yes. And that's the spirit channel. So we can actually live heaven on earth, connect to those on earth, connect those to the spirit in the spirit realm by raising our vibration. And, you know, I keep getting this image of people in heaven, right?
Right.
Playing harps, right? So that's right. That's always the image we see. All right, let's take a brief break. I'll be back with you in a moment.
I'll go get my harp.
Good, awesome. I'll be back with you in a moment on Love Never Dies Radio. And Dr. Turndorf, turn on the love. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Love Never Dies Radio on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, and Dr. Turndorf, turn on the love on Binge Networks TV. I'm talking with Steve Reese, who is the healing harp man. He's tuned his harp to the 528 hertz frequency, which brings all kinds of healing in mind, body, soul. And Steve, my engineer, has your music queued up. He said it's a 6-minute file, and he would like to know how much of that we should play. Do you have a suggestion?
I'd just say people will get an idea if you just play a minute of it. It'll come through. Yeah.
So let's hold that for a second, Bob, and let's just see, because that was very kind of you to get up and tune your harp. And we said in the last segment that you were going to demonstrate to us the difference between a string that's tuned lower than the 528 and then the tuned at 528. Is that right?
Yeah. Let's see. I forgot to bring I got the wrench over here. I'm going to have to, well, here. I think I can do it this way. So this is the C note here. And I'm not going to be in the right frequency, but I can give you a demonstration. Normally the C is going to be, let's just say it's right there. When you tune up, oops, come on here. Oops, I'm doing the wrong one.
Do you need a wrench?
Okay, here we go. Hear the difference?
Well,
I don't know if it's coming through okay.
Second note is higher.
Higher, right. So that's what we would call sharper. So when we tune to 528, it brings all of the music up like that, just a little bit. It's not a lot, but it's just enough to make a difference. And most people that couldn't tune a harp can still tell in their core that there's a difference in the music, just because it's up just a little bit. A lot of musicians call it sweetening the music. So that's a term that's used.
Isn't it interesting? Because think about our language. It's uplifting.
There you go.
Because you lifted up the string to make it higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So how about if we hear like 1 minute of this music, this healing harp music from Steve Reese? Bob, are you ready to play us a minute?
Yeah, ready to go.
All right. Let's lay it on us. Oh, do you know what happened to me the minute I heard the first chord? I burst into tears. Isn't that
I've had that happen a lot.
Yes, because to me, you know, it's an opening.
Yeah.
And when you cry, it's just like, it was very profound.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to listen to the whole minute. It was just the first chord.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I always threatened that I would play in a Walmart parking lot someday. And one day we were broken down with our travel rig and we were in a parking lot. So I got my harp out and I was just playing along, and this young woman drove up in a car and she just sat there for a few minutes. And I just saw tears just starting to come down her eyes, you know, and she was just, "You don't know what you've done for me today." You know, it's so amazing what such a little thing can do to change a whole course of a person's what's going on.
I love also about it is it's so effortless.
Yeah.
You know, because when you think about the divine, connecting with the divine, it's an effortless process. It's like sinking into the hammock, the arms of your loved ones in spirit, the arms of God. You don't work for it. You allow, you surrender. And your music is the same. You just surrender.
Yeah. There's a psalm that says that, it's one of the Psalms of Ascent. It says, "I am like a weaned child sitting in its mother's lap." And it's interesting. It says it's a weaned child because a weaned child doesn't come to get milk and nutrition. It comes just to be there.
Just to be in the connection.
Yeah, just to be in the connection, yeah.
Now, when you play the music, do you get the same effect as when you listen to a recording of your music?
There are days when I start to play that I'll just get lost in it. I just go all over the place. I don't have any music. I'm just going with what I'm feeling. And it's interesting. People, you know, kind of in relation to what you're asking is, you know, is canned music as good as live music? I think it's a little better to be live. But at the same time, the frequencies are still coming across from the electronic. And I get so many people that take my CDs. I was at a friend of ours in Virginia, and she had all my CDs, and I noticed she was playing them. I thought maybe she just put them on because we were there. You know? But later on in the day, the same song came around again. And then that evening when we were eating, it came around again. And I said, "Aren't you getting a little tired of the music?" And she said, "Oh," she said, "I play this every day. My day goes so much better when this music is going on in the background." So, and there's a gal up in Ohio that runs a pet spa, and she started using my music to play while they're doing the treatments for the pets. And she said
and they're doing manicures and pedicures for the pets?
Yeah, and hair, you know, all the whole thing that you do for pets, you know.
I mean, but that sounds so stressful to me.
But I think that's why she started playing the music. She didn't realize what effect it was going to have on the animals. And one of the owners was talking with her when she was picking up her pet, and she said, "Ever since you started playing that music, my little Fifi or whoever is so much calmer now."
No, it's no joke, because we think, "Oh, wouldn't you love to spend the day at the poodle parlor getting all poodle?" But I had a poodle named Agneau Noir, black lamb in French, and every time I would take her to the poodle parlor, she would act like I was sending her to slaughter, you know, and she,
yeah,
and the door would open, and I would feel like like a murderess, you know. And so I believe we should pipe in your healing heart music to every poodle parlor across the world, or every group.
Yeah.
That's great. So now, do you do live concerts also, since you said that it works?
Oh yeah, yeah, we do live concerts wherever the opportunities open. I'm here in Australia right now. We've done several concerts down here and up in Sydney and here in Melbourne. And
where do you live throughout the year?
In a trailer.
Oh, okay. Are
No,
you
we have our homestead in Mississippi. We've got
in
so
Mississippi?
we do have a literal place that has a
But
mailbox
then
and
you
everything.
travel around and do your music.
Yeah, we're usually on the road or away from home about 10 months out of the year. So
Okay, and you travel with the harp, of course.
yeah, and my wife is a storyteller as well. She tells scripture stories, and that's actually what got us on the road in the first place before I started researching the frequencies, because she is an incredible storyteller. I mean, she just, people say, oh, it's like watching a movie, you know. And I play the harp behind her story is how that's what got us on the road. And so we've been on the road this is our 15th year that we've been full-time on the road. So
Oh, wonderful. So now we have 4 minutes left, and this has been a really special interview. I've really, really enjoyed meeting you and talking with you, and I
likewise, yeah.
love your music. So I want to make sure everyone knows everything about how to find you in this period now with social isolation. Are you no longer doing live appearances?
It's been a while. That's why I just put up on YouTube one of my latest. It's a 528 for just to help people calm down. I've got a bunch of photos that my wife and I take a lot of pictures as we travel. So I put a bunch of scenic pictures up behind the music, and it's about 45 minutes long. And
Okay, so you're
I
doing
just put it up on YouTube. Yeah.
All right, so let's
It's
have
free. Just go and enjoy.
let's give all the coordinates so people can find this really important life-saving music of yours. Give all your coordinates, all right?
Okay. My website is calmingharp.com. So if you listen to the harp, it makes you calm. And I do have I have a lot of CDs there. And I also have started another site called thecalmingstore.com. And because I started seeing people being helped by the music, I thought of other ways like infrared lighting and PEMF therapies and other things that are more natural ways of staying well, and supplements and that kind of stuff. So that's in that.
Also, transdermal magnesium, right?
Yes, exactly. All of that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I read your article on magnesium. Anyway, so I put that site together just to offer some other things as well.
You're doing such a ministry. Yeah, everything you're doing.
And then there's the YouTube, which is if you go to YouTube and then you / Peregrinati is the name of our ministry, PEREGRINNATTI. I put it on the link when we first started there in the chat.
It's also on your webpage. The graphic we created for you leads to your dedicated webpage on AskDrLove.com. So you will be on my site for eternity.
Oh, good. Thank you.
We are connected in the 528 for eternity through the page on my site. And people will be able to access this show recording. We will post on your page the weekend following this live airing, so everyone will be able to find you.
My grandkids said, "Are we going to be able to see it?" And I said, "Well, she told me they had a recording." So.
Oh yes, and they're going to see Dr. Jamie going ape.
Yeah.
They're going to see how.
This is who we all really are.
Oh man, I'm really glad you came on the show. I'm going to buy all your music as soon as we hang up. I'm going to do that. So I'm not going to say goodbye. I'm just going to say arrivederci.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, absolutely. And I want to also do a quick shout out to my engineer, Robert Sherwood, Bob Sherwood, alias
Bob.
Pisser. He did such a great job today in trying to talk me off the cliff when I couldn't get my computer to stop its reload. It's update and queuing up your music. So thank you so much, Bob. And everyone, just listen to this music change, raise your vibration and be in peace. Separate from what's going on the earth plane and just raise your vibration and live heaven now with me and with our wonderful guest. See you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Be blessed.
You too, honey. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.